But I think people have a really hard time trusting brand new real estate agents. This is a game about experience. This is a game about negotiating, a game about marketing, and you've got to know your stuff. So you got to know what you're good at and what your strengths are, and then bring that to the table. Bring something in and then just be willing to absorb and suck everything that you can out of that team while you're contributing.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Relentless Goal Achievers Podcast. Listen, this one's going to be specific to realtors. So, if you're a realtor friend, or even if you're just starting a business and you want to grow a business in different ways, you may want to listen to some of these techniques from my guest, Kristi Jenkins. The reason why is she's been in a real estate game for over 2 decades. She sells between 18 30 homes every single year, and each one of those homes averages about $1.6 million. So, Kristi, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Eric. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've been checking out your YouTube channel. You put out so much content, and one thing about it is that we're living in a time right now and over the last year where interest rates have, gone through the roof. Most realtors who I speak with complain about business being slow, people not buying, and me being the optimist that I am, I'm like, you're just not doing something right because houses are always selling, houses are up for sale all the time. And then I see
Yeah.
you on YouTube, on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you got a following, you're constantly giving really valuable tips to your community. So I'm really glad we got to connect. And thank you for being open to sharing your secrets today.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think so much of I think of people who get so down and who are so frustrated by the current conditions. They don't see this as a lifelong career. They don't see this as a relationship. It's transactional for them. And I think when you've been through the ups and downs like I have over the last couple decades, you realize that you build a referral base. You build a business based on trust. You create partnerships, and you really become a community integrator so that you're the go-to person, because like you said, I mean, it's like insurance. You've got to have car insurance. You've got to, when you need to buy or sell a house, you need somebody to represent you. So as long as I'm that go-to person, and I think there's very few of us that kind of maintain those kind of relationships, there's always going to be business. You just have to stand apart.
Yeah, so let's pretend I'm a brand new real estate agent and you're leading me, right? I just joined
Yeah.
your team and you're charged with training Eric, right? What are like the first few things you would have me do to hit the ground running?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think a couple of things. You as a person really need to know what your unique skills are. So how do you communicate? What are you best at? What are your weaknesses? And for that, for a lot of my agents, I'll do any kind of a skills assessment, test, and we'll go through what their personality is and their characteristics, and then we kind of build into that. What's their past experience? So what have they really excelled at? A lot of people come into real estate, come into it from a different career, a different job. So they probably have some unique skills that they did from that previous job that can translate into real estate if we kind of figure out how to bridge that gap. So we'll do a really good skills assessment and then figure out how they can participate in, how they can contribute to that partnership or that team or that group that they're a part of. Because I think so many new agents get into this for the wrong reasons. They think this is quick money. They think they can flip a couple of houses and make some good commissions and they're going to be set. But I think people have a really hard time trusting brand new real estate agents. This is a game about experience. This is a game about negotiating, a game about marketing, and you've got to know your stuff. And so I think it's important that you partner with somebody either on a team or as part of a group that has those pieces of that puzzle that you yourself can't fill. So you got to know what you're good at and what your strengths are, and then bring that to the table. So if you've got a great network of resources, maybe you're going to be the one to kind of bring in some of the leads. If you're really good at communication, maybe you're going to start off on the communication side of things and send out a lot of emails and create marketing materials. Or maybe you're, a younger generation and you're great on social media and you're great on video editing, and you join a team that they really need some help in the social media department, and you can prove your value that way. So bring something in and then just be willing to absorb and suck everything that you can out of that team while you're contributing.
Love it. And what assessments do you use to identify those things?
I think everything from like a disc assessment to doing enneagrams, all of the kind of traditional things I think are important
Hmm.
to deep dive into that. I think it kind of depends on, who the person is and, what you're kind of looking to put them into. But I think it's important to know their communication style, and their strengths and weaknesses. And so, even just having them read the, Enneagram book and, or even do research, there's so much you can get from, online and do a free online assessment is oftentimes I have found eye-opening for a lot of people because they really have never, I mean, remember doing it as a, in premarital counseling, my, fiance and I had to go through and do some, premarital assessment to see how compatible we really were. But I feel like that's not everybody does that. And I think that's kind of gone way by the wayside in business. But I think it's really important because I think it really does change how you communicate with different people and the style that you adapt. And I think this job is all about communication.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I actually the just last week I walked outside, and we're in Southwest Florida, so it's hot. And I see this guy walking door to door, and he's knocking on every single door, and he's dressed in like khakis and a button-down shirt, and I'm like feeling so sorry for this dude. Finally, he walks up to me. I'm walking my puppy. He walks up to me and he said, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Brian. I think that was his name." I was like, "Hey, Brian, I'm Eric. How are you?" And he gives me a card, and he said it wasn't like a business card. It was literally a mailer type of card. He said,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm representing one of your neighbors, and I know the neighbor. He mentioned her by name. We're selling her house down the road. If you know of anybody, here's some details about it. Do you mind sharing it with them?" And so he kept on walking, and I'm thinking, I said, "Hey, can I just give you some advice?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." I said, "I know it's not solicited." I said, "Get your camera out and record yourself doing this because I don't see it. You're the first realtor I see. I don't know how effective your strategy is, but the fact that you're doing this for your client in 90 degrees right now, you should document this.
Oh,
At least
absolutely.
share that, right?" And he liked the advice. He took out his phone. But I think there are certain things that realtors can do that will help them stand out. And
Yeah.
before we jump into those ways, what were you doing 20 years ago before you got into real estate?
Well, the job that I joined in real estate looked very, very different than it does now. But I was working for a big gaming company here in the Seattle area. I was at corporate and doing a lot of marketing and public relations for them. And then I had my first kid, and I just thought I don't know that I just want to go in and sit at a desk full time and be away from her. And my mom had recently started her second career in real estate, and so for a number of years she and I were partners. So we had a mother-daughter team for a number of years before she retired, which worked out great because neither one of us were really we were trying we had a very similar idea about how to build a business, and it was very, very referral based. We had never done any marketing. We didn't subscribe to social media, even if it was when it was brand new. It was purely word of mouth. It was, talking to our clients and getting word of mouth referrals, and just kind of doing it very authentically, very organic, very homegrown. So that was my start, and I think that people would have a really hard time doing that anymore. I think you have to be so much more. I never thought I would need to be, have put on all the different hats that I put on now. For me, it was just a good fit because I was a great negotiator and a great communicator. I'd had schooling in pre-law, and I was used to doing marketing materials and creating campaigns and events for the gaming company. And so it felt like it already encompassed a lot of things that I knew that I was good at. So that's the role that I fit into in that partnership with my mom because she was great on the communication side of things, and she already knew how to use the systems and the processes. And so it was a really good fit because we had very different opposite skills and abilities when it came to the job to start with. And then as it changed, and I took over the partnership, and then she eventually retired. But yeah, it's definitely, I mean, we were using, Thomas guides and faxing, and that was kind of how we that was how we got things done back in the early 2000s. So it's a very different game now, and I think you have to both understand what it's going to take to do this job, but you've also got to know where your holes are and you've got to have resources to fill those. If I didn't have, I mean, my videographer is one of my most trusted team members because that's one of those things, the recording, the video editing, the putting stuff, that's something I just could not even fathom doing myself. It seems like a very, very foreign concept to me, but he makes it look easy and he makes me look good. And for that, that's invaluable because I think that's a really important piece of my business now, but I think you've got to do it right. And I'm not on social media as a salesperson. I really want people to get to know me. I want to see me as authentic. I want people to see how I take care of my clients. I want them to see how creative I am when it comes to negotiating, when it comes to multiple offers. I want them to see, feel, and understand who I am. And if that's a good fit for them, I just trust that they're going to reach out. So I don't advertise on social media. I really just use it as a way for people to see and get to know me.
Which in turn is advertising, just indirectly,
Exactly.
which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. That's awesome. Yeah, your videographer does a really good job, and your videos look really good. I really enjoyed the
Thanks.
one where you're like making a phone call, or you got a call and you're like standing in front of a construction site where
Yeah.
they're literally digging up dirt, and you're
Yeah.
like, "Wait, we can't break ground today." That was funny.
Yep. Yep. And
Um,
he pushes me out of my comfort zone too, because I'm more of a conversationalist, and he's like, no, we gotta do a twist on this millennial thing. We gotta do this point of view. We gotta do some funny videos here. He's the one who threw a golf ball at me and said, no, you just gotta kind of react. We're doing a golf course thing. And so I think, you also have to have somebody who brings out all of those skills and things and understands well enough about how you work to push you a little bit, and he definitely pushes me in that way, in a good way.
that's really cool. So you started early 2000s, not to keep talking about, way back in the Stone
Yeah.
Age days,
No.
right? But life was really good back then. And then 2007, 2008, the big crash,
Yeah.
many realtors didn't survive that.
Yeah.
So what do you think? I'm assuming you didn't go get a job and then came back later, right? Like
No.
that's just an
No.
assumption at this point.
I was in the heart of raising my two kids. I had a daughter in 2002 and one in 2004. So I was a young mom at the time. And so my time was split. I was doing it a little bit more part time, but I could because I had my mom, as my business partner. And so we could tag team, a lot of our business during that time. And that was a game changer for me as a young mom. Because back, in that time period, there weren't work from home jobs. You either worked or you stayed home. There was very little flexibility. So it gave me that flexibility that I think most people today don't realize how unattainable that was back in that time period. And so I did do it a little bit more part-time while my kids were young, and I think that was one of the important things to me, was that I could be a present parent, and I wanted to be able to show my kids as they were growing up and figuring out who they were and what they wanted to do in life. I wanted them to know that they could do it all, that they could have a great, fulfilling career, be an entrepreneur if they wanted to, raise a family, go to school events, be the party mom for the, elementary school class. I wanted to do all of that and show them that it was possible. And I wasn't necessarily raised in a family where that was, kind of very conservative family. Most of my family's friends, the moms stayed home full time, and that was kind of the norm, and that was, the accepted practice. And I knew that I could do it differently, not necessarily better, but I knew I could do it differently in a way that felt authentic to me, that I could model to my kids, and hopefully have them really respect, what I was doing and how present I was there for them. But what a great career and business I was building.
Yeah, so you were able to get through that
Yeah.
tough time, w- both you and your mom.
Yeah.
What do you think it was that had your business be so strong that you were able to get through a crash like that?
I think it's because we just continued to build on the relationship side of things. We were there. I have now helped one of my clients purchase a dozen properties. And that's been over 15 years. And I think that's a testament to staying in touch with people, to continuing to build on those relationships that you've and be there after the fact. I update all of my clients on when their home prices change, when something in the market changes, when something in the community changes. And that requires that I'm really involved in the community in which I live so that I know there's a huge housing development coming down, or they've just changed all of the rules and builders are going to stop coming into this area because we're under a moratorium, or all of these things that happen that change the landscape of whether people want to buy or sell in your area. I think you've got to be so much more than just a real estate agent. You've got to be a community integrator, and that's one of the reasons I've stayed in the hometown where I've raised my kids, because I went to these schools, my girls went to these schools, they went to the dance studios and dove and did gymnastics and all of that here. I am part of this community, and to be able to help people not just move into a house, but to help them feel like they're a part of a community is critical for building this long term, I think. And I think that's been one of the things that I feel like is unique and that people appreciate, is that I can connect them with so much more than just finding a house. I can really connect them with a community.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I've never heard a realtor speak that way, which is pretty cool that you do.
Oh,
So,
thanks.
when you do you have like a key to building relationships?
Um, I think you do it by over promising and over delivering. I mean, I know
Ooh,
that's like kind of, I think that you have to get creative when it comes to, you have to know what your limits are. So you can't, there's no there's no fake it till you make it in my book. I think you either know your stuff or you have the resources to do it. And so when you're talking to clients and you're building relationships about what's possible, you go in and you know what you can do and what you can deliver, and then you do it even better. And I think
nice.
that's my philosophy on kind of how I approach that. Is I want people, I mean, the people's opinion of me, people's referral of me to other people is the core of my business. And so from the very beginning on how I educate them until, 6 months later when I get invited back to their house or to their kids' graduation party and I get to see what they've done to the house and how they've moved in and how they've adapted to this new home that I helped them find. I mean, that is the core. That's what I do, and that's what keeps me doing this year after year.
That's really awesome to hear that. Um, can you give me an example of what you've overpromised and overdelivered?
Um, yeah, I mean, there was just a house that I helped a client get into just a couple of months ago, and it was gonna be really tight. We were under a multiple offer situation. I knew that he wasn't going to be probably the top offer because we had some contingencies we couldn't remove. But I knew this was exactly the house that he wanted. This we had been looking for a long time. This was perfect. It was the right fit. And so I said, I I have already been talking to this agent. I've built a rapport with this agent, and I'd actually worked with them a couple of years ago. I knew them. I knew that we had good communication, and I said, "We're going to get this. We're going to get this." It didn't seem possible. It was a real stretch, but I knew that by sticking to my guns and by presenting the very best offer that was clean, that was written well, and you wouldn't believe how many crappy written offers that you see come across, where, I mean, that should be the baseline. I mean, you should not be able to get your license if you can't adequately fill out forms and get them signed in the right place. But that's a topic for a different conversation. But I said our offer is going to be dialed in. My communication is going to be over the top, and the way that I'm going to present you as the perfect buyer for this house is going to win over the seller. Because it's one thing to have a great communication, great relationship with the other broker on the other side of the deal, which I think is hugely important, but it's another thing to connect with the seller in a way. And this just happened to be me representing the buyer, but with the seller in a way that they want your client to buy the house. And if you're not writing love letters or those aren't being presented and you can't do that, I think it's important to be creative in a different way. So I said, we're going to do this. I do things differently. We're going to do this in a different way. And sure enough, it came down to ours and one other offer out of seven. And so the agent narrowed it down and she called me and she said, I'd really love for your client to get this house. I think my sellers would too. There's just one thing that makes us different. Is there anything that you can do to do that? And I said, I can't, but here's what we could do instead. And so we kind of flipped the negotiation a little bit. And even though we weren't the highest price, we were still able to bring that and close it even sooner than he had hoped. We got him in before the holidays and he was just overjoyed. So not only did we get it for him, but we didn't have to pay what another buyer was willing to pay and go even higher on the price point. We were able to get it for the terms that he felt good about. And we had this non adversarial relationship from start to finish. The seller loved the buyer was appreciative of the seller, the agents, we worked well together. And even when hiccups come along the way, then you know that you're all after the same goal. You haven't negotiated the heck out of everybody from the beginning and created this conflict to where now everything feels like a red flag. And so it
Hmm.
just created this smooth process. And he hadn't had it done like that before. He'd felt pretty abandoned in his previous relationship with a real estate agent. And so I promised him that this would be different. And he's now referred three exceptional clients to me who he's just one of my biggest advocates because he just felt like it was so much of a different process.
Yeah, kudos to you. When new agents join your team, because I know most brokers like to build their teams,
Mhm.
what can they expect from you that they are not gonna get elsewhere?
Um, I think that they can expect, first of all, that I'm always available. So, one of the things that I found about mentors and bosses that I'd had over the years, whether it was my principal managing broker or a mentor, that they definitely had times that they were and weren't available. And in this game of real estate, this can be a 24/7 job. So, if you've got a question at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night and you're writing an offer, you can expect that I'm going to be available to answer those questions and to walk you through all the process. And then I really think that you've got to lead by example. So you can learn all you want about forms and what the right way to do things is in the classes, but until you're doing that on a day-to-day basis, every contract is unique, every client is different. And even though there are some consistencies in the process, you've got to treat each contract differently. So I walk through all of my own contracts with those new brokers so that they can see how I do things, so that they can understand why I'm checking this box instead of this one, or why this might be a better protection for this particular client, or make sure that they understand if we need to get out of this for a certain reason. And I've had three contracts fall out of escrow just this year. Two of them were based on HOA issues that came up in the underwriting process from a financial standpoint. And we hadn't waived the financing addendum, which a lot of people are doing in order to get their offers, looked at and more highly regarded than others. So we were able to get my client's earnest money back. And the other one, the seller or the husband lost his job 7 days before closing. And I
Mm.
was able to, because of the contracts and making sure that everything was appropriately checked and covered, I was able to protect my client's earnest money deposit in all three of those situations. And we got out, not without some tears, but we at least we got them out, financially back in the place that they needed to be in. And so I walk through all of those scenarios with the agents that I'm mentoring to make sure that they understand this is not just about, checking and signing. This is about making sure that each individual contract is customized for what could go wrong, what could come down the pipeline, what do we already suspect might happen based on the experience we've had with this broker or in this house or with the inspection. And you kind of go through all of that, really piece by piece.
Wow, that is really really neat to hear you say that, because I feel like most people will go kind of with the easiest path of least resistance, right? They would
Yeah.
check off the waiver and all that stuff, but kudos to you for not doing that.
And sometimes you
Um,
can, and sometimes that's
yeah,
that's the
if they have
advice
the
that I
funds,
give.
yeah.
I mean, what I tell my clients is if you are going to purchase this house, no matter what happens in the next 30 days. If you lose your job, if they discover structural integrity issues with this house, if they discover a serious rodent issue, if all of these things happen, if this is your perfect house and you are going to go for this no matter what, we can waive everything and close right away. But if there's any possibility that this might not be the right house, then we've got to provide a contingency to make sure you're protected.
Gotcha. Kristi, I usually ask my guests to leave like a gift for, our listeners. And you left a planner for content creation strategy, which I thought was really cool. It's like 30 days and kind of say, all right, today create this type of post, tomorrow create this. Why do you as a realtor, why are you gifting a content planner? I mean, you're not like a digital marketing agency.
No, but I think it's such an important part of my job. And it was something that I really struggled with a couple of years ago. It's one of the reasons that I got connected with Ryan Serhant, and one of the reasons that I got connected with his brand strategizer, and that's Kat Torrey. And she had created this 30 days of live Instagram. And she put it out there and on a whim. And I am not an impulsive person. I am a firstborn type A OCD, like I don't do anything without thinking about it. And I signed up. And the next day I was required to go live on Instagram with this prompt that she had created. And as I did that, and I've done it twice with her now, it took away a lot of my fear about the whole process. And it also gave me some tools that I didn't even realize that I needed in order to be successful on social media and to use that as a really effective platform. So hers was geared towards a kind of a bigger audience than real estate agents, but I think it's important to, especially if you're doing social media over the age of 40, to figure out where your place is. And I think it helps to just get you started, to get you in the game. And so I took Kat's format and I kind of readapted it with what I thought might really be effective for agents like me who were trying to get into the social media game but didn't really know where to start or didn't know what was going to resonate, what was going to get engagement, what was going to really kind of have that feeling with people of getting to know them. And so it was effective for me and I really appreciated it. And I feel like I could adapt it and make it effective for other people too.
What have you seen? What effect did this new habit have on your business for video creation?
I think what I hear more often than not from people is I never wanted to walk into a room and feel like I was going in there to sell real estate. I didn't want ever to walk in and for people to go, oh God, there's Kristi. She's going to probably try and convince me why she needs to sell my house. I don't want people to look at me like that, or to think that every conversation that I'm going to have in a larger group or at a party is going to be about real estate. And what I found after doing all these videos on social media and really kind of gaining some traction was I had people coming up to me. They were talking to me. They were like, "Hey, I've been watching your videos. I loved what you did here." Or, Did you know you sold my friend's house? I didn't realize that you were their real estate agent." Or, "You just did this funny thing," or, "You just did this video and I really I could appreciate." They were coming up to me, and that's all. That just reinforced exactly why I was doing stuff on social media. I want to be seen as an expert. I want for people to connect with me, to feel like I'm a good representation of what they want a real estate agent to be, and I want them to come to me. And when I felt like that was exactly what was happening, I knew that I had kind of found my place, my niche in that, and that what I was doing was really resonating with people.
What's your disc style? Are you a DC?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am
An I.
yeah. Yeah. And
DC
I'm
little
also
I.
what's really interesting, and I don't want to get into this a whole lot, but I do think that people change and adapt over time. Just like your business pivots, just like your goals pivot. I think that even though our personalities and our characteristics are set, I think that as I've become a mother and an entrepreneur and now an empty nester and a wife and all of these things, the way that you see the world, the way you adapt to it, your first reactions to things do change. And so I think that's one of the things that I found interesting. I don't think that I would answer a lot of the questions or feel connected to the same things that I did if I would have taken that at 18 that I do now at Sunday was my birthday and now at 49. I mean, I think that
Happy
that would,
birthday.
thank you. I think that I would score differently. And so I think that's a really interesting thing too, is, I think people really do adapt and change as they go through different phases of life and learn different things about the world around them and what they want out of it. And so, yes. So that's the long answer to your short question.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. You're gonna adapt for certain situations. All of us have all the styles in us. It's just some come very natural,
Yeah.
and when you work in that style, you get energized, and
Yeah.
others that you have to work at. So, like me, for example, I'm a high I, high D. So
Okay.
you give me a spreadsheet, I can analyze it, I can fill it out, I can fill out forms. I want to go take a nap after that. You put me in, an environment where there's a ton of people, I'm good to go. I'm getting energized from that. My
Yeah.
wife, Julia, you put her on a stage. Like if I'm on a stage speaking, I'm riled up. Like I'm ready
Yep.
to go. I can go for like 12 hours.
Yep.
Her, she will prepare for like a month. She'll know she'll deliver a perfect speech, and then she's gonna want to go to sleep. Right? You give her a spreadsheet and forms, and she's like the absolute best. So that's
Yeah.
why we're really good business partners like that. So
Yeah.
I was wondering what your style was, and then if you had an idea on what styles do you find thriving as new realtors.
Um, I think you have to have I think you have to be a good communicator first and foremost. And I said that earlier. I think you've got to be able to read people. I think you've got to be a really good listener. I think that's one of the most important parts of my job is I think that's one of the reasons I'm good at what I do is because I really do listen to people. When I go into a listing appointment, I'm going to sell somebody's house. One of the first things I ask them to do is take me around the house, tell me what they've loved. What have they loved about living here? Not what did you do to update it or what's new here? I want to know how they felt about the house. What did they dislike? Why are they leaving? Because not because I'm going to communicate that, but it helps me to understand who they are, how they live, and what they want out of this next phase. Because ultimately, that's why I'm here, just to get them, move them from one phase where they're at now to where they want to be. And I can't do that if I don't understand them, and I can't understand them if I don't listen to them. So I think that they need to be good communicators, and that's both listening and on the talking side of things. And I think they really need to have a passion. They need to be not afraid to do those things that are out of their comfort zone. So if somebody says, you know, I talk to a lot of younger agents who think, I am going to do it this way. And this is my path. And this is how narrow I'm going to do this. And I'm going to be successful. And I think that there's too many people that aren't willing to kind of think outside the box, take some mentorship, take some suggestions and run with it and do some things that make you uncomfortable and talk to people that you're not used to talking to and create some materials that you don't know are going to, be exactly correct and send out some, some emails to people and just see what resonates to figure out and listen to the people that are giving you the advice.
What's your thoughts on cold calling for new agents to grow their business?
um i I despise cold calling and I despise the term cold calling. I would way rather warm call people. So if I've got a
Sure.
list of people and I'm in the neighbor, like they're I have a neighborhood that I'm working on and I've done some open houses and sold some houses. If I get the contact information for those people and I've got a reason to call them, not just because I'm a real estate agent, I'm trying to earn your business, but I just sold your neighbor's house down the street. We did this, we got this. We set it up differently. I had a buyer pool I pulled from, and I've got a lot of buyers that I think could be interested in a home just like yours because I just had this experience. Are you interested in talking to me about that? That's a warm call, and I am all up for warm calling. But I think just pulling a big list where you have no connection, and again, I think it's because I believe so heavily in this as a relationship building business. I just don't think you can build a relationship with somebody by cold calling them. But I think you can build a relationship when they already know or have seen your name and saw the success. And there's a connection there, even if it's not a personal connection. There's a reason for you to start building on that relationship. And so I'm all about warm calling, but I cold calling is bleh.
That's funny because I think a lot of people who would have listened to you just say that, they would say, no, 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 that's a cold call. You just had a reason to call them, but they don't know you. They don't know you. You don't know them. You sold a house down the street. That's a cold call. And I think because you look at it as, no, this is a warm call. It's
Yeah.
like, it's interesting because
I've had too many people, they literally have their agents, call a list of people that they've just, they've gotten, email or phone numbers or whatever from been verified, or they've whatever. They don't have a reason to
reason.
make that phone call except because they're just trying to get you on the phone to capture a business, but they don't have any connection to that area, or they're trying to break into a new neighborhood or a new area or a new price point or whatever, but they don't have any real authentic reason to make that phone call. So
How about we're
maybe
giving
that's the
away a
difference.
toaster with every house sale? I mean, that could be good, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah.
Christy, is there anything that you were hoping I would ask you that I did not ask you?
Gosh, I don't I don't think so. I mean, I think that there is so much value in real estate agents collaborating together and feeding off of each other, and that's why I'm so appreciative of the relationships I've been able to build across the country with other real estate agents from everywhere, is because I think we can level up this game. I think that we can elevate our industry, we can elevate each other and our businesses, and do more and grow more together if we're just sharing opportunities, sharing ways that we can interact with clients, and just make this better. So and I think that this really is about storytelling too, and that's another thing I took away from Ryan Serhant, is that we are storytellers, and people look for real estate objectively, but they buy subjectively, and that's based on the story that we're able to tell them about that house. And I think there's just a lot more to learn and a lot more to do and grow and show our value in this industry.
Awesome. Christy, it was a pleasure to chat with you today. Thank you for coming and sharing your story and delivering and giving us some massive value. Guys, I'm going to link all of Christy's links below. But in the Relentless Goal Achievers arsenal, you can find her 30-day content strategy. So if you're looking for ideas on what to post online, get over to the arsenal, download it right there. It's all free, and enjoy it. Take yourself to the next level.
Thanks,
Um,
Eric.
Thank you, Christy. Bye, everybody. We'll
Appreciate
see
it.
you on the next episode.